go.
Oh boy, well, okay. We got another episode of Microphone Therapy. And today, as a special feature, Eliphas Levi. I think I'm pronouncing that right, and nothing to do with the genes. Eliphas Levi, who started with the Catholic Church, and in the vein of all the things we've been talking about, is another one of these guys trying to conjure angels and demons. How does he go about it? How does he do it? Let's find out. Right here today on Microphone Therapy. French poet, writer, interestingly enough, a career with the Catholic Church, but he did abandon his priesthood in his mid-20s and became a ceremonial magician, just like our friend Aleister Crowley. Well, not just like him, but in the same idea of, I don't think you were welcome back at the church if that was your choice. At the age of 40, he began professing knowledge of the occult. He wrote over 20 books on magic, Kabbalah, alchemy, essentially, and occultism. And I think if the listeners are not aware, occult means the unknown. His pen name is Eliphas Levi. Elephant Man Levi. Yeah. And it was an anagram of his given names. I'm going to murder this, but Alphonse Louis into Hebrew. Levi gained renown as a original thinker and writer. So he was popular. His works attracting attention in Paris and London, which that had to be state-of-the-art stuff if you get noticed there, I would imagine. Among, I got to at least make an attempt at this word, esoterics and artists of romantic or symbolistic inspiration. He left the Grand Orient de France, the French Masonic organization that originated continental Freemasonry, in the belief that the original meanings of the symbols and rituals had been lost. I want to get to the meat and potatoes of this thing. Let's find out what this guy could do. The thesis of magic propagated by Eliphas was of significant renown, especially after his death. That spiritualism was popular on both sides of the Atlantic from the 1850s contributed to the success, however. Levi diverged from spiritualism and criticized it because he believed only mental images and astral forces persisted after an individual died, which could be freely manipulated by skilled magicians, unlike the autonomous spirits that spiritualism posited. Now, I agree with that because I think that if you are, and I'm always going to lean towards a darker magician, I believe that, and I'm not going to say why, but I believe I will use the term warlock will kill himself. And I'm not being a sexist. Warlocks are generally males at the end of their life on purpose so that they can be reincarnated and just rediscover where they left off in their overall magical, I hate that word, and I hate the word quest, but I guess I have to use it, in their overall manifest destiny that they're trying to self-create in an attempt to become a god themselves. So there you have it. Now you both know where my loyalty is. Okay. In regard to the perpetuated supernatural occurrences reported by the practitioners of spiritualism, Levi was obviously credulous. He explained the phenomenon which quite recently have perturbed America and Europe. Those of table turning and fluidic manifestations are simply magnetic currents at the beginning of their formation. Appeals on the part of nature inviting us, for the good of humanity, to reconstitute great sympathetic and religious chains. Now, I was trying to go somewhere with this, and I picked that part out because I know that this guy has a way that he's trying to go about a technology of conjuring. I want to say at first mostly angels, so I have to read ahead a little bit. But this definitely fits right back into the thing that was the whole reason I got excited about sharing any of this. Heather, you weren't on the show yet, but Michael and I couldn't wait to get to the part where I said that the demons being conjured are most probably the dormant parts of the brain being reawakened, and that includes, and we've already been over this, the what you see, what you think you've seen, the actual apparition of a spirit or demon. His magical teachings were free form, obvious, fanaticisms, even if they remain rather obscure, and he had nothing to sell, notwithstanding his publications. He did profess himself to be a poor and obscure scholar who found the lever of Archimedes, and he offers it to you for the good of humanity alone, asking nothing whatsoever in exchange. So he's not I don't find him to be a black magician then, because they're completely selfish and preoccupied only with their own result. He did not pretend to be the initiate of some ancient or fictitious secret society. He incorporated the tarot cards into his magical system, so I'm automatically turned off. And as a result of the tarot, has been an important part of the paraphernalia of Western magicians. That's a good word for that too, paraphernalia. He had a deep impact on the magic of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and later on ex-Golden Dawn member Aleister Crowley. There he is again. He was also the first to declare that a pentagram or 5-pointed star with 1 point down and 2 points up represents evil. You motherfucker. While a pentagram with 1 point up and 2 points down represents good. Okay. Levi's ideas also included Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophical Society. The next caption is as a ceremonial magus. And I'm sure you both know that if you are a magus, you are at the very top of the food chain with whatever achievements you've had in your magical studies. You're not a novice. You're not somebody who's very good. You are like considered the best. Of his initial experience with British esoterics in 1854, Levi wrote, I didn't realize he was that late, 1854. Although I just read his life. I thought he was earlier than that. I had undertaken a journey to London that I might escape from internal disquieted what is that? I wish Heather could see this word because she know what it means. disquietude. Okay, that's a fucked up word. And devote myself with interpretation to science. They asked me forthwith to work wonders as if I were a charlatan, and I was somewhat discouraged, for, to speak frankly, far from being inclined to initiate others into the mysteries of ceremonial magic, I had shrunk all along from its illusions and weariness. Moreover, such ceremonies necessitated the equipment, which would be expensive and hard to collect. I buried myself, therefore, in the study of transcendent Kabbalah, you know what I mean, and trouble no further about English adepts. Another good word, death magic for adepts. It did not take long after his arrival in England, however, before his skills are reputed magus were earnestly courted, and Levi obliged an elderly British woman who, on the agreement to strictest secrecy, rigorous amongst adepts, provided him with a complete magical cabinet containing the necessary paraphernalia to apply his theories to the practice of magic in England. So maybe we'll get to it now. I'm not going to go through theory. I'm going to skip ahead. There's a potent and real magic, popular exaggerations of which are actually below the truth. Oh, this is from his grimoire. There is a formidable secret which constitutes the fatal science of good and evil. It confers on many powers apparently superhuman. It's a traditional science of the secret of nature, which has been transmitted into us from the Magi. Initiation, therefore, gives empire over souls to the sage in full capacity for ruling human wills. Arising apparently from this science, there is one indefectible and truly Catholic religion which has always existed in the world, but is unadapted for the multitude. So he's actually giving some homage to the Catholics there. For this reason, there has come into being the esoteric religion of It's Heather, Apologue.
Epilogue?
And then in
No,
parentheses,
epilogue is with an E. It starts with an A, right?
I don't know. And then in hard parentheses, parable, fable and wonder stories, which is all that is possible for the profane. It has undergone various transformations, and it is represented at this day by Latin Christianity under the obedience of Rome. Its veils are valid in their symbolism, and it may be called valid for the crowd, but the doctrine of initiates is tantamount to a negative of any literal truth therein. It is magic alone which imparts true science. It is magic alone which imparts true science. Okay. The three chief components of Levi's magical thesis were astral light, the will, and the imagination. Levi did not originate any of these as occult concepts. I have to break in real quick and say this. You've got people who are staying awake for long periods of time, fasting and pounding precious metal symbols into them, then making a food offering to something which will or will not then appear to only them, because you can't have anybody around when you're doing this normally. And all of a sudden, out of a puff of smoke, I assume, or a, what did you say last night? What was it? Not a puff of smoke. The things that gassed up out of the ground. Here we have a demon with a hawk's head and who rode up on an alligator and the body of a lion and fire. How do you know these guys just hadn't been awake too long and didn't have anything to eat? You know,
well, I would assume that when it comes to demons and stuff like that, you know, people take like ayahuasca, or, you know, mushrooms, whatever hallucinogenic things. Like monks were always doing that stuff.
Yeah,
to enlighten themselves,
right?
You know, and not just monks, but anyways.
So using an organic compound as a way to break down the barrier.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Or are you just high as fuck?
Or
that's what you know. So, anyways, concerning the astral light. Wait, notice, did I miss something? Who's wait? Do I have to back up? Anyways, the astral light, which is neither more nor less than the odyllic force of Baron Karl Reichenbach, as the French writer, again in hard parentheses, Levi, himself admits substantially, and the force he, Levi, usually terms the astral light, a name which is borrowed from Saint Martin of the French mystics of the 18th century. So what would you both say astral light is?
I don't know.
I go immediately to astral projection, which is there's a strong light and even potentially the sound of an explosion when you leave your body as energy or soul or whatever you want to refer to it as, and also the same light being a medium or not a carrier. What's the thing that what makes one thing move to another? Anyways, like astral light. What's that?
Like the force.
Well, like the force, but also there's a word for it that I can't think of because most of my brain cells are dead. But an astral light could go both ways. You could be presented with one, or you could try to achieve one. You could try to astral project and leave your body as energy, or you could have something present something to you that way. And anyways, now they're starting to talk about it. This guy did have close people working with him. Louis Claude de Saint Martin had used the term astral to mean psychic force. So there you have it. Astral light was also indebted to the ideas of the 18th century proto-hypnotist Franz Mesmer. Mesmer, again in hard parentheses, evolved the theory of animal magnetism, which is an excellent Scorpions album, by the way. This he held to be fluid, which pervades the universe, but is most active in the human nervous organization. So there you go again. They're saying your body and its makeup and all of its systems play a strong part in the ability to interact with these spirits, demons, or angels. enables one man charged with the fluid to exert a powerful influence over another. This really jumps around. So this is what I've never understood. Do I have to have a pen and paper for you to go out of, you're talking about a spirit, and now you're talking about I have influence over another man, but it all relates back to the phenomenon of astral light, and there's always a guy named Franz. So we're painting with broad strokes. Astral is an adjective meaning connected to, consisting of stars. Okay, let's get the stars in there. Levi used the term astral not only as a synonym for psychic force, but because he believed in the ancient and medieval practice of astrology. As Levi wrote himself, nothing is indifferent in nature. A pebble more or less upon a road may crush or profoundly alter the fortunes of the greater men and even of the greatest empires. Much more than the position of a particular star can not be indifferent to the destinies of the child who is being and who enters by the fact of his birth into the universal harmony of the sidereal astrological world. What a bunch of bullshit. Sorry. Personal opinions aside, not Will Ferrell, but your will and imagination as magical agents were asserted 3 centuries before Levi by
Paracelsus.
Yeah, that guy. You can get ointment for that, by the way. The magic is a great hidden wisdom, and reason is great upon folly. No armor shields against magic, for it strikes at the inward spirit of life. Of this we may rest assured, that through full and powerful imagination, only can we bring the spirit of any man into an image. No conjuration, no rites are needed. Circle making and the scattering of incense are mere humbug and jugglery. The human spirit is so great a thing that no man can express it. Eternal and unchangeable, as God himself is the mind of man. And could we rightly comprehend the mind of man, nothing would be impossible to us upon the earth. Through faith, the imagination is invigorated and complicated, for it really happens that every doubt,
Mars.
You have it. Mars, its perfection. Faith must strengthen imagination, for faith establishes the will. Because man did not perfectly believe and imagine, the result is that arts are uncertain when they might be wholly certain. Whether the object of your faith be real or false, you will nevertheless then obtain the same effects. Thus, if I believe in St. Peter's statue, as I should have believed in St. Peter himself, I shall obtain the same effects that I should have obtained from St. Peter. But that is superstition. Faith, however, produces miracles, and whether it is true or false faith, it will always produce the same wonders. Levi cautioned the operations of magic, science are not devoid of danger. The result may be madness for those who are not established on the base of the supreme, absolute, and infallible reason. They may over-execute the nervous system, or excite, they may over-excite the nervous system, producing terrible and incurable diseases. Let those, therefore, who seek in magic the means to satisfy their passions, pause in that deadly path, where they will find nothing but death and madness. That would be the black magician he's referencing. This is the significance of the vulgar tradition that the devil finished sooner or later by strangling the sorcerers. So by using black magic, you're essentially destroying yourself, I guess is what he's saying. Socialist background. It was long believed that the socialist Constant disappeared with the demise of the Second Republic and gave way to the occultist Eliphas Levi. However, according to the historian of religions, Julian Drube, who wrote his doctoral dissertation on Constant, the narrative was constructed at the end of the 19th century in occultist circles and was uncritically adopted by later scholars. Strube argues that Constant not only developed his occultism as a direct consequence of his social and post-clerical ideas, but he continued to propagate the realization of socialism through his entire life. According to the occultist Pappas and the occultist biographer Paul, I'm not going to attempt that last name. Turn to the occultism was the result of a initiation by the eccentric Polish expatriate Józef Maria Hohenronsky. The two did know each other. The two did know each other, as evidence in Constant's 6 January 1853 letter to Ronsky, thanking him for including one of the Constant's articles in Ronsky's 1852 work. In the letter, Constant expresses his admiration for Ronsky's still underappreciated genius and calls himself the sincere admirer and devoted disciple. Nonetheless, Strube argues that Ronsky's influence had been brief between 1852 and 53 and superficial. He criticizes Pappus and his companions' research based on Pappus's attempts to contact Constant on 11 January 1886, 11 years after Constant's death. Later on, the construction of the specifically French esoteric tradition, in which Constant was to form a crucial link, perpetrated this idea of a clear rupture between the socialist Constant and the occultist Levi. Strube in 2016, wrote that a different narrative was developed independently by Arthur Edward Waite, who was a near contemporary of Levi. Strube opined that A.E. initials Waite knew insufficient details of Constant's life. Furthermore, Strube proposes that Levi contemplated magic as a new order, an ideology potentially and politically useful superstition, which by a new hierarchy would be articulated as he interpreted from Levi's statement. Hereunto, therefore, we made it plain, as we believe that our magic is opposed to the goetic and necromantic kinds. Goetic, yeah. It is at once an absolute science and religion, which should not indeed destroy and absorb all opinions and all forms of worship, but should regenerate and direct them by reconstituting the circles of initiates and thus providing the blind masses with wise and clear-seeing leaders. Strube argues that a journey to London that Levi made in May 1854 did not cause his preoccupation with magic, and that even though Levi professed involvement in magical ritual, instead it was after-mentioned socialist magnetic dialectic that compassed Levi's interest in magic. Compass? I don't know. I can't hardly see in here. Despite so, it is clear that Levi's statement limits itself to magic and its kinds, where Levi proposed to have merged science and religion and promotes his own methods by claiming to have applied a scientific approach in his research, contrasting it against the goetic and necromantic methods. My headphones are so bad, I want to I don't have any other headphones. Like when I was reading, I was getting every third word. They're like, I don't understand. Oh, that didn't help anything. Hang on. Sorry. Remember when you were a kid and you had headphones, like the cheap ones from the grocery store, and they worked for like 2 days, and then you had to like turn the thing to hear all the music?
Yes.
Well, now I have perfect sound in one ear. Oh, there's both. So anyways, I'm going through that. Probably just a better cable. Oh, that was that was a lot to read. So I apologize for all the crummy parts.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's
You listen to Mike read. I don't know what.
Oh, that's true. I know some of those words are completely pronounced incorrectly.
Not even worried about it. We're not here to we're not scholars.
No.
You know? So what it comes down to is we're learning this stuff as it goes.
Right.
And I think if we treat this as folklore, mythology, things like that, mostly trying to figure out what's true, what isn't true.
Right.
It puts us in a better mindset.
Right.
Keep it that way.
Exactly. So for me, the confusion is, and always has been, when you start talking about attempts, and I guess the best term is ceremonial magic, they just watercolor what it is you're trying to, it's a smudgy, many facets of what humans are accounting of what's taking place.
Yes.
And I guess that's part of the allure. It's different for everyone.
Oh, cool. Got it.
So if I set up a video camera tonight and conjure a demon and swear on my son's life that it was there, and then I was taking dictation from this spirit or demon or angel, and then there's nothing on the camera but me sitting there staring at the wall into the corner talking to what I promise against the very essence of my soul is there, then there is that, right? I mean, I guess that's what we're up against.
That is exactly what we're up against.
You can't see it, but I promised to you that I have all the information that it occurred, and maybe you do the same thing. And so we all have to find somewhere where we agree that something is happening or nothing's happening.
Well, I think what it comes down to is regardless of whether or not, like going back to what you said, if you conjure a demon, we don't see it, but you see it, right? Who's to say that our reality isn't skewed? Well,
let me give you an example, because you followed closely along. You followed along when I was in that thing where all of a sudden I was painting Beelzebub on my wall. Yeah. You recall any of that? This went on for like a month, and I think at one point I said, "It's really happening. There's a presence here. I'm just going to leave it at that."
Right.
And you could have, because I am the way I am, you could have went like, he's serious or he's not serious, because nobody really ever knows. I mean, unless we see him in the police blotter, we don't know if what he's talking about is true or if he's rambling on about something that is for him just a daydream.
Yeah, but to say that you're wrong, like when we're talking and I say no or you're wrong or whatever else like that, we're talking about stated facts.
We're talking about hard content. Yeah.
But like life perception,
right?
What you're doing and what I see when you're doing it and what you see, two completely different perspectives, two completely different realities.
Right.
So
for me on the Beelzebub thing, because I thought he was like the main guy, I was like, I said, I'm going to mess around with this idea. So whatever, and I have to look back and see what it is that I made him look like, because for me with art, I never go like, I'm going to sit down and paint a building, because it'll never happen. If I paint a building, it's because I was cleaning out my roller on the wall and go, that kind of looks like a facade of like one of those pictures of New York, but done in like you're cleaning your paintbrushes out. And that's how my stuff takes place. So I was doing something and it had nothing to do with Beelzebub, and Beelzebub came out basically.
Right.
And the more I worked on it, the more like pretty soon I was like, I was just sitting there one night and I was like, and I think they call him the Lord of Flies or whatever, but I was like, this to me is this is what's coming out. This is what's appearing. I felt like I wasn't doing any of it. I felt like I was just smearing stuff around on the wall and it was making its own shape. And then of course I have to go in and do my the way that my stuff always looks, but it wouldn't allow it to do that. It's like it just kept coming out how it was by itself. Now, to get off something that would, to back up my claim, if it sounds like I'm fibbing or pulling your leg, Heather, you have two of my pieces of art that I've done for you. I had the third one, which I don't know if I ever recounted that for you, but this one ended up being what I thought was a bunny rabbit, and that happened because I always clean my brushes out on something if I clean them, and there ended up being an eyeball, and then I'd use a roller and this and that. Anyway, it ended up being a bunny rabbit, but it also, my daughter pointed out, looks a lot like my dog that passed away, Mr. Littles, from the side.
Oh.
So it could be really either, because when she pointed out it and I looked close, I was like, you're right. So anyways, that one's out in the hallway right now, but I'll send a picture over. So here's another thing where I clean stuff out and it ended up taking shape into something, which is either a bunny rabbit or my best friend in the whole world till that point that ended up passing away right after Thanksgiving. My dog, Mr. Littles, the deer-head Chihuahua, long hair. He was black and white. And if you look at this bunny rabbit thing from the side, it really does look the way he looked from the side, because he was just, turns out he was just a really small, even for a Chihuahua, not the kind you, don't they have them where you can fit them in your purse or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not that small, but I mean, he probably weighed 9 pounds, because I'd get him wet and he'd have a bath and he would just be this little tiny, because, long hairs, he had all this hair on him. So he didn't look that small, but when you got him wet, you're like, there's not much of this dog at all.
Yeah, but they're about the size of tiny cats.
Yeah. So anyways, that's all I got on that.
Tiny kittens.
I'm glad I didn't pre-record this, because I would have gave up and thrown everything away and knocked the speaker over. And
It's not as easy as it sounds, is it?
no.
Having to read and figure out when you're doing your voice projecting and shit like that. I'm still learning it. So
Well, I know I voice project wrong too, because where a sentence should pause or end, I'm confusing myself and everybody else.
Yeah.
But I think the gist of it is there.
you did fine.
Thank you.
We learned about Levi.
So didn't really touch on one I want to just do out of my memory. He had a process that he went about with another guy where they recorded these. I guess everything's got to be called a ceremony to, and came up with a process to conjure the entities or spirits, demons, angels. And I'll dig out what I read on that before. It doesn't have to be like tonight where it's, goes on and on, but I just want to pluck that little part out and represent it at some point. What it is that I think it's, I'm aware of that he's done the authoring of the books, but the main thing that points out what he is always esteemed for by the magicians or the students of the magicians is that he was trying to, or maybe even successfully, made contact with, I want to say it's more angels, but there might be demons in there as well. So I'll dig that out and we'll touch on it real quick another time.
Yeah, I've got a book of his that he wrote. I'm just going to put that in quotes. The Key of the Mysteries, according to Enoch, Abraham, Hermes, I think it's Trismegistes, and Solomon.
Sounds like a really shitty dinosaur.
Well, that, or it sounds like sounds like Fremunda.
Imagine living in a time when your name could be Maximilian. I mean, it's kind of cool in a way.
Yeah, but I don't think Trismegistes is really that guy's name. It's probably Trismegistus. But
I wasn't even aware that tetragramma. I always
Tetragramma. Good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.